Hi everybody, this is Steve from GuitarNiche, and we have a situation here where we have to mill the shelf of this locking nut down because these strings are sitting far too high, which is going to affect playability and intonation. So, how much do we need to take this down? Here's one way of looking at making a basic measurement, if you would. If I press the string down here, okay, you'll see a little gap of light. As I look at it for its value, and I did measure it, the gap here is 6 thou. Keep in mind that the neck has been straightened. It's actually straight, if not over straight. So we're going to get some flex once it's under compression. So our measurements here are going to be additive by the time we get tension applied. So keeping that in mind, thinking ahead, this was 6 thou. I did measure this. This is the difference between here and here is somewhere in the neighborhood of about 18 thou. It doesn't sound like a lot, but visually you see it like a just crazy huge. Now the process of milling this out is going to be my own method, which is very hands-on. There are tools, of course, you can use to block out the headstock and router a flush shelf, okay? But considering the amount of time, effort, etc., versus the amount of material we're trying to remove, I'm going to do this old school, my way, you might say. And to set the stage here, the end of the guitar here, if I can show you this real quick, okay, has been blocked out with a tongue depressor. I've taken 2 springs out of the back so that the tension here is minimal, very, very minimal. Don't want anything crashing back here and causing problems, okay? And then as we come back to our working area, I'm going to approach it as such, okay? I'm going to take the tension off the strings. I have it in my head what I want to see in terms of relief, or not relief, sorry, the wrong term. A value at the first fret here. Now, it's a matter of having a good assessment to begin with, and what I determined is from the treble to the bass side, the amount of material is going to be slightly more, that is, the amount of material I'm taking off is going to be slightly more on the treble side versus the bass side. Always want to have the bass side riding a little bit more proud. Treble side can get pretty low. But we also have to respect the middle strings, because these middle strings, particularly the G, once it gets down to its lower limit, it becomes really problematic, because the G string is very excitable, and you'll get buzzing and stuff that you don't want if you take this down to its ultimate limit. So we're looking at, trying to marry all things. That is the radius of the nut, which is usually imperfect to begin with, versus the radius of the fretboard, and we're anticipating trying to achieve a happy medium of all things. Again, one spring in the body, which is keeping things under control. Got this handy retainer from StewMac. This thing is okie dokie in my books. Just got to get it situated here. And I'll be moving stuff around. So what I need to do is plow out. I'm going to start with about 10 thou. So how am I going to do that? Well, I'm going to resort to chisel. 3/4 inch, nice width, and I'm going to be somewhat conservative and just start chewing away at this. I might revert to a second file, or sorry, not file, but chisel. I tend to be very visual and remember how things look more than work from absolute measurements. This is a very sharp tool, so I'm just going to nibble away at the shelf here, being very careful to consider that we want to keep things as level as possible, okay? Not tipped forward, not tipped back, so that the nut does its job accordingly. Okay. Again, I'm trying to relieve a little bit more material closer to the treble side. Okay. And hopefully I can get around the camera here. The thing with maple is it's kind of mushy compared to other hardwoods. If you work with woods enough, you kind of get that sense. Okay, so that's pretty conservative, let's say. I would estimate that's about 6-7 thou that I've taken off there. Okay, so just a block with some, I think that's 220 around it. Pretty conservative. I'm not pushing into the end grain here, trying to concentrate more on the actual surface. Now, it's not anywhere near finished because I still have to take out some chew marks there, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to check this real fast. Okay, get rid of that retainer. Look at that. Okay, so right away you can see that it's come down considerably. It's not ideal yet, but we've lost, yeah, about 5 thou or so. Just gonna check that. Actually, just for giggles, I'm gonna introduce a little bit of relief so I can anticipate what it might look like once it's under compression. You see how it came right back up, okay? And this is the beauty of knowing your processes. So I'll straighten that neck back out. And it came down a few thou. As the neck settles out, okay? So we know what our compression factor is, okay? All right, so we will take tension back off. And just gonna nibble at this surface a little bit. When in doubt, you know, like I said, I keep a close visual on my reference points here. And if you have any questions about angles and stuff like that, keeping the seat flush, it's better to go back a little bit rather than forward, because if the nut winds up, I'll have to do it this way, if the nut winds up tipping forward, you're going to get all kinds of nasty sizzling at the leading edges of the slots here. So mind you, you do want to keep it, square, of course. And your eyes are very good tools for managing that sort of thing. Again, being very, very careful to I'm going to take off some minimal amounts here with a very, very sharp tool. Okay. Another way to look at this is if the instrument is very well made, like this one is, I'm also keeping tabs on this back edge here. If it starts to look really tilted or slanted like that, I know I'm taking too much off of one side. But in this case, I know I am, because I want to take off a little bit more material off the treble side. So I'm okay with that. Now I have some 80 grit sandpaper on my sanding block here. I'm not going to put any pressure against the facing edge. And just flush that out a little bit. Okay, it's looking not too bad. Switch up to 220. I'm going to leave that sawdust in there for the time being. Okay, and we'll check our string height again. Once you apply the locking or the set screws, that will pull the nut down another fractional amount. By that I mean it can be a thou, it can be a point of a thou, but it does make a difference. All right, so where are we at? We still gotta chew a little bit more out, or a considerable amount, I should say. So I'm just going to keep at this. Considering I still have to clean up the shelf, we're in good shape. I mean, there's a lot of, I mean, you can see where there's a lot of stuff came off of that. But we're going to get into the final phases of this. I want to make sure that this nut hits that shelf just right. Just true that up. So the front face of the nut is nicely aligned with the back edge of the fretboard there, so we know we're in good shape there. Let's see. Yeah, it's good. All good. Oh, we see a little bit of... Well, it's a little trick that I forgot to mention, which is if you do this, you can see where the nut is actually contacting, I should say, the surface. And I keep eyeballing this shelf here to make sure that it's square and true. Okay, so where'd we wind up? I would say that that is pretty much bang on. The screws will tend to draw it in because they're already seated. But as far as clearance, oh, this is beautiful. Now, just for illustration purposes, I'm going to bend the headstock. I'm going to put pressure on the bottom of the headstock, and we're going to look at what it's going to look like under simulated compression. Oops. just like that. Okay, so that's going to be just about perfect. So at the end of the day, the final step will be to double check the seating. I'm going to just use the nut to pass it back and forth, see where it's riding on the surface. When you move it back and forth, it creates shiny spots, and then you can excavate those or sand them out or whatever, and you'll get this beautiful marriage of part to surface. After that, it's a matter of housekeeping and locking it down in terms of screwing down the retaining screws themselves and carrying on. Okay, anyway, I would call that job pretty much done. Thanks for coming out. As always, like and subscribe, have fun, play loud, and have a great day. Cheers!